Hi everyone, it's week 3 of Inktober and it's crazy to think that we're really just one full week away from the end of Inktober. I'm trying not to sound too excited about that, but I'd be lying to say that it's been an easy half a month. The drawing and the painting side really does seem to take only a couple of hours for us, but I would say coming up with ideas is at least equal to that amount of time. And I'd say it's also a lot more tiring too. But anyway, I'll stop moaning. On day 15, the word was weak. Now, I don't know about you guys and your experiences with it, but when I was growing up and even in adulthood, I think that crying is taken as a real sign of weakness. I mean, I'm a crier. I cry a lot. And yeah, I've always encountered people who seem to take it as there's something wrong with me, that it makes me weak in some way. And I've just never really prescribed to that idea. I also think it's kind of cruel because if somebody cries in front of you, they obviously feel comfortable around you, and to then basically insult them and say that there's something wrong with them, I think you are kind of betraying the trust that that person has shown in you. And I thought as well it could be interesting to take the idea of a weeping willow and make it human, kind of like the tree nymphs in Greek mythology. One thing I kind of focused on a lot in this drawing especially was the composition. At the top of the image there's so much detail and line work and just it's very finicky, so I wanted to make sure that as you work down the image the information kind of gets less complicated. So like the fish, I didn't want to add any detail at all. I wanted those just to be brushstrokes to kind of counterweight the amount of detail at the top of the image. And I think that way it does kind of draw you down the image as you look at it. But you'll have to tell me if that's true. For day 16, the word was angular. Now, I know I mentioned this in last week's video and probably the week before that, but I've been trying to take this Inktober time as a way of furthering certain skills that I've been struggling with, especially over the last year. And one of the key ones that I do struggle with is architecture, especially illustrating architecture. I don't want to keep retreading the same territory, but I thought that this would be a good opportunity to try and practice a little bit more. I'm wondering if you guys do the same thing, but every time I come across an image I think that's interesting, whether it be because of the light or the imagery or the subject, just anything about it, I like to save them and keep them as my own photo references that I like to kind of browse through when I'm looking for a little idea. And one of the key things that I always save, and I have way too many images of, is Hong Kong and massive Hong Kong apartments at night. I just love those harsh colours and the reflections, and especially when it was raining and the water, I just love the light, I guess. So I really wanted to take that level of detail, and it was tempting to go very harsh colours, but I really wanted to focus more on just a horizontal and vertical line-based drawing, very based on fine lines and details. So yeah, I didn't want the image to get too vertical and horizontal, if you know what I mean. I think it would make your eyes bored. So I tried to break it up and make it less dull by adding some tiny details that were diagonal and change the line shapes of the overall image. So I added little curtains and washing lines in places just to break up that conformity. And I also tried to vary the line weight and try and block out ink in darker areas too, or to try and just break it up a little bit, because I think one of the larger problems with architectural technical drawing is I think it can sometimes feel a bit too information overload, and I didn't want to rely on colours to manufacture depth, if you know what I mean. I didn't want to do that, so yeah, I kind of just went this route of focusing more on the ink and the line art, and I do think it looks very different from the rest of the month, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good idea that maybe not all 31 drawings look exactly the same. Hopefully you think the same. So yeah, for day 17 the word was swollen. Honestly, when I hear the word swollen, I don't really think of nice things to draw. I just think about an injury or some kind of painful, horrible thing that's happened to you. I don't know, I just can't think of a nice image with the word swollen. So instead, I kind of was thinking about the word swell, and swell just made me think about the swelling solution in Harry Potter, you know, the one that I think Harry throws a firecracker or something like that into a cauldron and it sprays all over Crabbe and Goyle. I can't remember why he did that. He's just an arse all the time, isn't he? But he did something like that for a reason. And yeah, the idea of a swelling solution kind of came to mind as a swelling spell, like a swell spell. And I don't know, I just like that term, so I thought it'd be fun to draw. I do like to imagine witches in more odd like less classical situations too, probably like a lot of artists at the moment. And I just like this idea of like a normal witch just sitting in a library, learning a new swell spell and trying it out on her pet owls. And I also like the idea of turning a little owl into a not so little owl. One of the things I especially liked in this one was giving them all different expressions and just being a bit more silly. I don't really go into expressive faces very much, and I think that's especially because it feels very like different and new to me, and I feel like, is it too exaggerated, or like does it not come across well enough? Yeah, I think it's hard to balance it not looking silly, if you know what I mean. So having this opportunity to play with the owls and give them different expressions, it was just a really nice way of practicing. The colours for this one as well were interesting because I really like reflected light. I really like when light sources come from lots of different directions, and I thought it would be fun to just experiment with that and see how, if there are many different light sources, how that would affect the illustration more. So this one really is an experiment in lighting as well. So for day 18, the word was bottle. Now I had an idea for bottle, I think probably since day 1, and I've been really excited about it coming up. It kind of made me think about mermaid, which we did earlier this year in May. And I feel like it could be fun to do that again next year. Maybe do a whole week of it or a series of drawings rather than just one next time. But yeah, there were a few ideas in this piece that I wanted to do, but I had no idea how to paint them. So this painting is kind of like an experiment on trying to achieve lots of different effects. Like the reflections on the glass and the tattoos that are on the mermaid's skin. I kind of played with the idea of tattoos on Week's arms. It's kind of like a bit of early practice for this one. But I worry it just looks a little bit too much like a pattern on this mermaid. I think the idea of it being a tattooed mermaid tail doesn't really come across as strongly as I hoped it would. I feel like maybe this concept would work better if I painted it at like a larger scale, like A3 or A2, or maybe even digitally. I think I could have played with it a bit more, and that way I could have really toggled with the opacity a bit more and gone into those details that I was kind of hoping to achieve. But yeah, I mean, I've only really got one day, so I'm not going to be too harsh on it. I am pretty happy with how it turned out in the end. I don't know if it also comes across, but I was thinking about 1950s pin-up girl posters when I drew this, and I was kind of hoping that she would feel like that style. I really loved that style of drawing. I mean, I played Fallout till... You don't want to know. You don't want to know how many hours I've got on Fallout. But I loved that like 1950s style, and you know, after Inktober I really think I might kind of head down that style for a bit, maybe try some different like 1950s pin-up girl drawings. Not like just sexy, but I don't know, just playing with that concept a bit I think would be fun. Maybe mixing it with these kind of storytelling illustrations. Kind of basically a continuation of this mermaid bottle idea. It's probably what I might try and do when Inktober's over. So for day 19, the word was Scorched. As I'd kind of been focusing a lot on characters, which was something that I really wanted to improve, I did want to take this day and do a bit of storytelling with an animal instead. I wanted to draw something a bit fiery and, I don't know, an animal that could start a big fire, but I didn't want the animal to look capable of doing so. So I was thinking mostly about cute little creatures, and I considered making up my own dragon, which I really want to do, but I've been trying to go with this idea of a feeling of the everyday in the drawings at the same time, which, you know, you can question how much that comes across with this one. But yeah, I thought it would be interesting to take a cute creature, and I was thinking about cute little birds, because, you know, dragons do look quite a lot like birds to me. And the cutest bird that I could think of were little budgies. So I wanted to make some ferocious looking budgies that, you know, start forest fires and then just laugh about it with each other. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird story. Oddly though, on weird stories, I actually saw a parrot the other day when I was out on a walk. I was walking down by this person's house and there was a green parrot in the tree. I've never seen a parrot walking around. I mean, I don't think they're native to South Wales. I'm pretty sure it must be somebody's pet. I was like, I just didn't know what to do. I was staring at it thinking like, well, I can't catch it. I hope it was purposefully outside. And there was all of these like magpies like messing about nearby, like cawing at it, and I don't know, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was in some kind of drama. Yeah, it was very weird. I've never seen a parrot out in the wild. And yeah, I think maybe that filtered into day 19's idea. And from there, day 20's word was breakable. Weirdly, the idea for this one came very quickly to me, but I'm probably not as happy with the result as I have been with a few of the others this week. I always like that idea of creating like a miniature world inside a terrarium. I mean, I've seen lots of art online where people have taken that idea and done really good concepts with it, but I wanted to take that idea and maybe move it a little bit further in the way that maybe the break in the terrarium can almost be part of the landscape. I mean, my main idea basically was that I wanted to create a waterfall from a broken terrarium and have it look like part of the world that was within the terrarium. I think the main inspiration behind that was the building Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright. That's kind of why I made it look like a lodge as well. I think anybody who enjoys architecture loves Frank Lloyd Wright's buildings, and I don't care if they're supposed to be uninhabitable in winter. If you can afford one of those houses, you can probably afford a second winter home, or at least a holiday during the winter. But yeah, again, I was practicing architecture again, I guess. I think this could have been set off a bit more and made a bit more cohesive with a better colour palette, but I guess I was worried about going a bit too like BFG in the Childhood Week, if you've seen that, and focusing too much on one colour for this piece. I mean, I don't really mind doing one colour, but I really wanted to expand my skills a little bit in this month and, you know, experiment and just get into more uncomfortable territory, I guess. So I challenged myself with this one, and I do like the colours, I guess, overall, but maybe not all of them together in this one. And yeah, day 21 was Drain. So the idea for this one came from last year. If you were there and you saw last year's Inktober's when they were coming out, if you remember the one where I poured tea from the teapot into a cup that I painted below it, I think the word was united. I'm looking it up. Yeah, it was united. Well, anyway, the idea for this one kind of came from there. I wanted this time for the black and white of the illustration to kind of blend down the illustration into colour, like the colour was draining from her face. Kind of like the, is it Pleasantview, the film? It's kind of that idea. Pleasant View, Pleasantville. Kind of like Pleasantville, if you've seen the film. So yeah, that was the concept. And then I thought, well, what should she be doing? Maybe she's receiving bad news, and then the idea of a phone call came to mind, so that was kind of like the idea behind the drawing. But when I sketched up the idea, I thought that it could do with just something different about it, something to add a little bit more interest, just visually. So I wanted to try and add some lighter colours and just make the colour transition a very nice colour change. So I thought maybe give it a more retro vibe. I mean, getting a phone call seems a bit retro in itself, so why not? And yeah, I went with some 1950s styled wallpaper, turned that a bit pastel, you know, just taking these big simplified flower patterns. And then I tried to give her little elements of that style too, but also trying to keep her a bit modern. I just wanted to have a bit of fun, I guess. And yeah, I thought that this was kind of a sad concept in a lot of ways, so I kind of wanted to play against it and make it a bit more cheerful at the same time. And that's the third week. Hopefully, you'll have noticed the audio has improved. I finally saved up and bought a microphone so I don't have to keep hunching over my camera and try and keep track of 10-minute intervals when I talk so it doesn't click off mid-speech. And yeah, now that I have a microphone too, I might be able to try and do some new things after Inktober in these videos. I mean, it'd be nice to do some interviews or podcast-based content. I mean, that's if you guys are interested in that. I'm not sure if you guys did this years ago, but there used to be this website where you could draw with strangers over the internet and you could have like prompts and you would all draw responses to it. I think that could be a real fun idea to have, like, you know, I mean, we're lucky to have so many artists that chat through these videos and I've gotten to know that I think it could be fun for us to, I don't know, just like do little group sessions where we could just take a prompt and draw, or maybe like just chat to artists. What do they think? You know, where do they come from on ideas? I don't know. I just think there could be a lot of interesting ideas of doing more talk-based things where it's just not me in a room alone talking to Rory the cat. I mean, a while ago when my sister came down, we talked briefly about this idea, kind of like doing a joint drawing chat session. So maybe if she gets some time, we'll take that idea forward, and if it works, I'll try and get it sorted out just so I can get the logistics right. I don't want to make promises that I can't actually deliver. But yeah, this is all so up in the air, it's not even worth saying, is it? But yeah, get hyped for that. And yeah, I think maybe it's just because we're getting to the end of Inktober and I can't help but think, well, what am I going to do after this? I think I'd been losing a little bit of confidence art-wise leading up to Inktober, but this challenge has really given me a lift. Just being able to focus on things that I've been feeling very weak about when it comes to art, and just seeing how positively you guys have been both here and on Instagram. It's just, you've all been very kind, and I just want to take that confidence that I've gained this month and try and launch myself into future projects. Yeah, just I hope you're all feeling motivated by this challenge too. And if you're not, and you're feeling a bit down, just make sure to leave us a comment below so that I and everyone here who actually reads the comments can just cheer you up, because I'm sure that you're making massive leaps and bounds in progress. And, you know, it could just be the wearing down of a month of work that's getting you, you know, taken away from that realisation. Yeah, I just hope that you're all doing well. You know, we're all here to support each other. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and I'll chat to you again soon.